it's like we're like the big sisters in their life that they just need a little bit of guidance, a little bit of direction.
I mean, they're way more big than us.
Oh yeah,
but we're the little sisters.
We're
of
the little
them,
sister.
for sure. You see it 100 times more now than you did back then. But I've been talking about Day in the Life since 2018 when I launched this membership.
Now what's funny is some people are like really very open with like turning on a shower and getting under. Like no one needs to see me getting undressed on camera.
How do I get more leads?
How do I stand out in my market?
Is it unprofessional to talk about my kids on Instagram?
Should I have one account or two?
Do I really need a personal brand as a real estate agent?
We are the Modern Agent Marketing Girls. We are 2 agents turned marketing experts who believe you can become the go-to real estate girl in your market all because you are you. I'm Chelsea Petersen, founder and CEO of Modern Agent Social Club.
And I'm Kayla Fox, Modern Agent's content creator. Let us be your guide as we talk about what it means to market your real estate business the modern way.
So refill your favorite beverage, open your notes app, and get ready to build a business and a brand you're obsessed with. Let's go.
Good morning, Kayla.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Girls podcast. How you doing?
I'm good. I feel really refreshed this morning. I feel like I got up and was very organized. Today is on Tuesdays, Mark goes to his office and he takes Henry to his mom's house. So I always feel like Tuesday is like home alone day for me because there's no one here. Like Mark's not here, Henry's not here. He does all the driving back and forth. Like, and I'm just here. It's like it's kind of like
such a luxury.
Yeah.
Yep, I love that. Well, I'm feeling a little refreshed too. So the last several weeks, oh my gosh, I have had like so many issues with my health, with like bronchitis, a cough that won't go away. It's been so exhausting. But yesterday I finally went back to the doctor and they actually gave me a steroid injection in my hip. So I have like this big bruise. I'm like right up top of my butt right now. But I think it's actually working. But I went to bed last night at I think around 6 o'clock and didn't mean to. I like woke up at 11 and I was like, oh my gosh, what's happened? And Brett had the kids all in bed and I was like, okay, I guess I'll go back to bed. But I woke up this morning, still a little like raspy and whatnot, but at least I felt like I had energy to get up, and I actually like loaded the dishwasher and did some things and felt like I could do some things. So I'm excited to record.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better to record. I feel like that moment of panic when you wake up and you're like, wait, what has happened? It reminds me of being like a brand new mom and you somehow happen to fall into a deep sleep, like just for one day out of like 100, and you're like, oh my God, like where's the baby? Why didn't he wake me up? Or like it's that panic moment. Like I hate that feeling. But at the same time, it's like, oh, I've only been sleeping for like 35 minutes.
Exactly. You know, it just makes you feel so good. So very cool. Well, I'm excited about today's episode. I know we were going to kind of chat about things day in the life, but I thought we could start by kind of talking about a day in the life of some of our listeners because we've gotten some really sweet messages and we thought we could kind of shout them out and give them some love. So do you want to go first?
Yes, I have MKE Realtor Christine, which Milwaukee. I didn't even realize this when I took a screenshot. She said, hi, I'm a new realtor. Just listened to your new podcast and loved all your suggestions. Thank you both. Following with the hand raise emoji. Yeah. Emojis add so much. Like that is my love language. You have to add emoji.
Otherwise they don't count.
Yes, exactly.
That's so sweet. I love that.
And I love I love all the realtors, but new realtors, I love that they are already like, my first step is I'm going to dig for whatever information I can find. Like this podcast is free. Like, you know, they're in the weeds of it all. Like, let me try and get scrappy and I'm ready to like dive into all of this. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like all of like the experienced agents listening are thinking to themselves, I wish I would have done that. Like, I wish I would have had a resource like that to help me get started and avoid a lot of mistakes. So
I always say that about Hustle Humbly podcast too, because it's so about the like everyday transactional side of real estate and how to navigate all of that. And that is so like, it's just very overwhelming when you're new, and I don't know, like to be able to just listen into them and be like, okay, I think I'm good. It's just like, it's very reassuring, or like whatever the word is, like you just feel so validated when you listen to that, and you can hear that you're not alone, and that even, you know, super experienced agents deal with things like this, and So I would have loved to have that podcast as a new agent.
Oh, for sure. It's kind of like anyone listening to ours and Hustle Humbly, because I feel like they go so well, like hand in hand. It's like we're like the big sisters in their life that they just need a little bit of guidance, a little bit of direction.
Power couple of podcasts is what I hope to be. I mean, they're way more big than us.
Oh, yeah.
But we're like we're the little sisters.
We're the
of
little
them, for
sister.
sure.
Yes, exactly. I got a message from Realtor Dana who said, I just wanted to say I really liked the Marketing Bar podcast. And when I went back to listen to old episodes, I found this one. And however, she said, I love the new podcast even more. I've listened to every episode at least twice. I'm slow in implementing, but the gears are turning in my head. Thanks for what you do. I think being slow to implement is fine. Like, it's still like you're learning a lot, you're taking action. Sometimes I think the biggest mistake people make, including myself when I listen to podcasts, is like absorb all the information and I have to have more, and I don't pause and take the time to implement. So if you are taking your time, you go for it.
I could dedicate like my full-time job to listening to podcasts and taking notes and all the things. I love that so much. And I mean, even just recognizing like I'm slow to implement, but you're still implementing. Like, that's amazing. Nichelle Richards, real estate, said, hi, I love your podcast. Y'all, I wish I had a Southern accent. Y'all are the most relatable and easy to listen to. And then she was telling me something else I won't read. Okay. But I just like, it's so reaffirming for us to hear these messages. Like, and you know, this is, if you have like a screenshot from a client, or not a screenshot, a message, a text message, a testimonial, an email, like a nice comment, like make an album and like call it client love or something, and like go read that when you're having a bad day, or maybe you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm cut out for this, or like you're just, you know, one of those entrepreneurial moments in your brain that makes you the way, like that's just part of this, right? But it will help you kind of overcome that little like hurdle that day.
Yeah, because I feel like we're like bombarded with lies. There's always something telling us like we're not doing enough, or we think that we are, and then we get on Instagram and see someone else is doing something we're not, and we think, oh, I should have done that. And we need those messages that are reminding us like you're still making progress, you're still serving people well, and you're doing a great job. So
have you ever seen a post on Instagram and been like, that literal idea was in my brain, but I didn't execute it, and I wish I did? Like, how did that person have the exact thought that is in my brain right now?
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
It can be so frustrating. I heard an author, though, I think it was, do you know Annie Downs?
Yeah.
She talked about how when she was coming up with a book, it was probably a couple years ago, but she said it was just really frustrating at first because she noticed a lot of her industry peers were writing books about similar topics all at the same time. And she was like, why? I wish I would have done this 2 years ago. I wish I would have been ahead of the curve. But then she was like, how cool that all of our listeners and all of our like readers are getting put on the same path. Like they're all hearing similar messages from different perspectives, but like this is going to really, really impact them. And I just thought like, what a selfless way to look at that.
That is actually amazing. And it's really cool because you actually get all the different perspectives then. And it reminds me that it's not too late, or like it hasn't already been done. Another book that I thought of was Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And she talks about how like our ideas aren't ours really. They're like multiple people do have the exact same idea. And sometimes like when you don't execute yours, you will see it pop up in the world. Like whether it's like something major or a silly Instagram post. And I think that's a good reminder that when you put your own perspective on it, it makes it your own. And it's like, I'm never like going to say like, go copy that person's idea, obviously, but everyone has their own take on things. And that's why we're so interested in things like day in the life style content.
Yeah.
So I love the Skinny Confidential podcast. I probably mentioned that before, but on their podcast, they will sometimes send emails that have like a summary of someone's morning routine, or a summary of someone's day in the life, or like, here's the products they use, or here's their skincare routine. And I'm always reading the whole entire email about whatever their routine is, even if I didn't listen to that guest episode yet. Like the other day I was reading one, I'm like, I don't even know who this is right now. Like I'm going to go find out and listen to the podcast. But I was just like so fascinated by like the steps to her morning routine and what she drank and like what she put on her face and what skincare she used. And she does work out before she starts work. I don't know. It's just like you could read an unlimited amount of those and it's still interesting and entertaining. And I think that just with what you said about everyone having their own perspective and teaching that same topic, it's kind of like that. Like everyone could tell their morning routine and it would all be somewhat different because everyone's morning is going to look a little bit different. And I think that's where that content becomes so fun to consume. And you really get to kind of like find your people that way too, because you're like, okay, I can relate, or maybe I don't relate, but I aspire to be that way, or I learned something from the way she did that. So I think it's a super cool way to just share more behind the scenes of your life, in that like, I have to stop and read this, I have to stop and watch this moment that brings people and invites them in to learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah. Kylie Kelsey. Do you know who that is? She's married to Jason Kelsey. She
Taylor Swift's future sister-in-law.
Yes, exactly. Hopefully. I've always like adored her, especially with us being like a big football family. We've always liked them. And she was asked a question about how like would she ever be willing to do a reality TV show? And her answer was like, no, because no one wants to see me sitting around the table pouring cereal for my daughters or whatever. And I just thought like, yes, we do. Like, that's exactly what we want to see. But people think like their life is so boring that like who on earth would be interested? But like people who, especially because like, you know, I do think that there are some people who air too much of their laundry or like show too much. Like you have to have a little bit of mystery. And I think that's where personal branding comes in, because you have to still like curate your brand. It's not just like, I'm going to share everything and have this magnetic brand. It is very intentional, but people are interested in, you know, what do you feed your kids for breakfast? Or what's the one thing in your morning routine that, you know, you don't usually share? Like, I want to know what that is.
It goes back to our episode that we did too about your life isn't too boring to be content. Is that the name of it? That was one of our most downloaded episodes so far, which doesn't surprise me at all, because why? Everyone can relate. Like everyone has that, whether you think you have a morning routine or not, you do. Whether you think you have an interesting life or not, like it is still going to be interesting to someone who's like, I want to know how you do that. Or like, we all have our own, we all are, like we all consume different things. We listen to different podcasts, we watch different TV shows, we interact with different people, we have different age kids. And I think that all gives us our unique little story. And that's why it's so entertaining to see like another mom, for example, share the way she does something or what she feeds her kids. Like I could watch videos all day of what moms feed their kids for lunch or how they sneak in the veggies. And it's like, I'm never going to hit a point where I'm like, okay, there's too many of those now. Like it doesn't matter, but it becomes intriguing because there's so much relatability with it. Yeah. It's not because it is simple, and it is, you know, if Taylor Swift, I would die if like people like Taylor Swift did a morning routine on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, just give us one.
Should break the internet. Exactly. Do you think though that people listening right now are thinking to themselves like, okay, girls, that's really cute, but I'm a real estate agent. I'm not an influencer. So like, what does this day in the lifestyle content have to do with me? Like, how would you respond to that?
That comment bothers me because I know like the definition of influencer, and when this all came to be with Instagram, it was this like this thing for people over here who were doing that. Like that's like they were put in this box like an influencer. Well, I'm not an influencer. I don't like promote clothing and have like an affiliate link for it. But if you're on Instagram influencing anyone in any way, so as a real estate agent, you're influencing where someone might live, the community that they're excited about moving to, you're excited about sharing anything about buying a house, right? Like you're influencing them to invest in real estate, to become a homeowner, to buy the house that's a better fit, whatever it is. You are influencing them, and you may not think that you're the influencer that shares affiliate links to their skincare products, but you're still the human who is doing the influencing. So that I think makes it a little less fluffy and like, okay, how can someone get to know you? And like in these very simple, subtle ways, it doesn't have to be everything about your life, like we said, but more intentional. And I think like through that, like through just sharing little things, it sparks those conversations and you pique that interest, and then people are like, I want to know more. And it's almost like when you do it, Instagram will tell you what pieces people want to know more of, not yourself. Like you don't have to try to figure out like, oh my gosh, like, well, I don't know what part of my life I should share or my day. It's kind of like you kind of start doing it and you work those muscles, and then all of a sudden 5 people ask you the same question about one piece of whatever it is that you shared. Like it could be the simplest thing. And then you kind of lean into that a little bit more because you're like, okay, well, my audience maybe consists of people who are other moms or who are also really into reading, or who also love watching the news or whatever. Like the news, that's a terrible thing to bring into your brand. Where did I get that? Why did I say that? I don't watch the news. So anyways, I think that by doing things like that, you're going to invite in that engagement, and that's going to make it feel like this isn't so fluffy. It's actually how I'm just building relationships. Like, again, I'm going to always talk about this every episode, but I think I should. Like, you're at the cocktail party. You're not just talking about the listings in your neighborhood. I had this idea for a reel that I really want to do to kind of paint the picture of the one account or two question, just because I think it's funny. But like, I'm going to hand you a business card, or I'm going to hand you a cocktail. Like, which party do you want to come to? Like this one, we're showing PowerPoint presentations of my listing presentation. Yeah. And at this one, we're talking about like all the things. Like we're talking about skincare, reality TV, and we're talking about real estate. Like all the latest listings on the market, what they're selling for, is that house overpriced? Like which party do you want to go to, you know? And it's like you're always going to pick the conversation party. You're always going to pick the cocktail party. And that's just what we need to continuously reiterate in our brains on social media is, I'm showing up to host this party, and I'm going to invite people in where they feel like they want to be here and they want to come back for more and more. Now, I do think, and I wonder like what your thought is, like how do you draw a line between like too much personal and not enough? Like where's the line? Because I feel like sometimes it can get feeling a little bit fluffy. Like if we pull up someone's account and it's like you can't even tell that they sell real estate, right? Like obviously we don't want that at all.
Right.
So like where is that line drawn of like you're oversharing or you're sharing just enough?
Yeah. I think it's going to look a little bit different for everyone. We give so many like tips and tricks, and we have so many strategies, but the bottom line is there are plenty of ways to do this. There are going to be some agents whose content is going to be more educationally driven because they're just a natural born teacher and that's what they love to do. And that's the kind of people that they're going to attract. That's fine. There's going to be other people who are more heavy on the influencer type content, and that's going to attract people too. So I think you're going to find your own mix. I think obviously you don't want to confuse people and make them wonder, like, is she even selling real estate anymore, or is she selling lip gloss? Like, not sure which one. But I do think I would look at the whole day in the lifestyle content as less of a, oh, I gotta check this off my list, and more of an opportunity to mix the business and personal. You know, it's kind of like a couple weeks ago on our email episode about how we talked about the monthly recap and how, you know, people sometimes get so hung up on this formula and like, well, I don't really read a book, or I don't really like have anything to celebrate. Well, then change it. But the point of it is to mix a little bit of business and a little bit of personal in your email. It gives your brand a lot more depth. It makes you more interesting as a person. The whole day in the lifestyle content, it's the same thing. Like, so for some people, that's going to look like every week I get up in the morning, I turn on my camera and I start recording. For other people, that's going to be, I'm going to do this twice a month and mix it in and then talk more about real estate. I think both of those scenarios are okay. The point is to like add some depth to your brand and to give the people who are watching, who are not interested in buying or selling today, a reason to still talk to you. So I think it's like, look at it less of like this, like, oh, the formula that now I have to squeeze this into my brand strategy. No, like this is a gift, an opportunity for you to easily mesh the two, where you can talk about like, this is what we're eating, or this is my coffee order, but also I'm on my way to show a house. Like such an easy way to mix the two, and it's less of a thing to check off your to-do list. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And you know, what I think of is that it's like a story. It's like you're storytelling through your content versus just telling. And we talk about this a lot too, is like the come along with me versus the like, I'm just going to tell you things and like just educate you and put out what I want to put out. But you have to think of it as like you're telling a story. And I'm really into Donald Miller right now. And I know, Kayla, you're like a big Donald Miller person. He just came out with his new book, Building a Story Brand 2.0. He actually was on Skinny Confidential podcast. It's such a good episode. Highly recommend listening to that. But anyways, my point of this is you're telling a story. So you're inviting someone in to your story, and it just makes you more human. It makes your content more fun to consume, because when you're part of a story, you're like invested in the outcome.
It makes me think of like the opening credits of not even just like a TV show, but like for some reason I'm just thinking about How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days right now. Like at the beginning of a really good rom-com where they don't usually just dive right into like the subject of the whatever. Like it usually starts with them getting ready for the day, them picking up their coffee on their way to the office, the taxi ride there, like all of those little things. And it as you're watching it, you know that the point of the movie isn't what's happening, you know, these like little B-roll credits that are happening. But it kind of puts you in that mood of like, okay, what's happening today? Like, what's in this for me? You know what I mean? Like, how is my life going to be like impacted by this story or whatever? And I think it's the same idea of like day in the life. Like, think of it as like your rom-com opener of like, hey, this is my day today. This is my life. And yes, it's not completely necessary, but also it certainly like draws a crowd and it certainly like sparks conversation, which is our whole strategy. Like, that's the whole point of what we do.
It's that TV show effect quality in your content.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually looking through Instagram before we started recording just to kind of see, did anything stick out to me like in this category? This isn't quite day in the life, but what I really liked about it is it's kind of like its own angle. And this is the cool thing about day in the lifestyle content, is it allows you to put your own spin on it in so many ways. And we're going to talk about some of those, but the reel that caught my attention says, Whitefish Bay is the neighborhood my family and I will be moving to in a couple of years. Here's why. Her handle is Love Live Milwaukee. So she's local to me. This was in my Explore feed shown to me. So again, local content is shown to local people.
Mm-hmm.
She's a real estate agent. And then she lists out why she's moving to Whitefish Bay. What I think is so cool about this is that's where she wants to sell real estate. That's like her niche area, which you can tell right away from looking at her account, but also because she's giving her own perspective on it and kind of inviting you into the story. And as I tapped her went over to her profile to start diving into like the rest of the content on there, she had a ton of content about moving to Whitefish Bay. Like she has a reel about, this is the walk in our future neighborhood, like all these like painting the picture moments of like what it would be like to live here, but she's doing it as herself. And I think that's such a cool way to like bring people into your story while still talking about real estate, while still showcasing neighborhoods. Like she kind of hit the jackpot of like all three things in one style of content. And now she's just repeating it. And it's so powerful. And it feels very day in the life.
But I love that you said too, like, what is working for her is being repetitive. If she would have made that reel one time, you probably would have never seen it. People would have been like, oh, that's cool, but it would have maybe even felt out of place. But when you continue to repeat that over and over again, that's where like a lot of the impact happens. And I think that's what's cool about Day in the Life is you can take a lot of the same clips, which we can go into like different ideas for that. You can take a lot of those same clips and you can piece them together in different ways to tell a different story. So I wrote down just a few different ways. First of all, just because we're talking about day in the life doesn't mean that every time that you create a reel, it has to say day in the life. Like there's a million different ways to say it. Just a few ideas that I wrote down. It says how this city name agent and then I put like mom, business owner, or whatever you are, survives the day. Or timestamp my morning with me, or timestamp my 5 to 9 with me. Get ready with me not to go to work because you're working from home. A diary of a city name realtor, my digital footprint, a peek into my unfiltered life, vlog and yap, come to a showing or a closing or inspection with me. So all of those things are day in the life content, but you don't have to say day in the life every single time.
I have some ideas too that I wrote down.
Good.
I might repeat one that you said because I don't remember every single one you just said, but come to work with me for the day, city name real estate agent edition, spend the day with me as a city name real estate agent, come show houses with me in city name, a regular day in the life as a city name realtor and mom of 2, Kansas City Chiefs fan. I don't know why I put that there because like I grew up a Colts fan and they're like, it was a Super Bowl when I wrote that. That's why.
There you go.
A day in the life of real estate and hosting Galentine's, book club, play dates. So like you're pairing together real estate with something else that's part of your brand. So like play dates, like what else is going to pop up in your day in the life? Or that if you have book club, is that maybe you decide to then document and like share a day in the life that also incorporates book club. Does it have to be on the exact same day that you document the other things? No, you can, this is what content is, right? You're curating pieces of content and combining them together for an effect that is going to be representative of your personal brand or of what you want to share. I also had behind the scenes vlog of selling houses and city name. I love the whole like selling Sunset. I love the name of that. So like selling Lake Country, selling wherever you live, and kind of bringing that into a blog. Because like think of all the pieces that are part of that too, besides just showing a house. Like it's going to be like what's in your car, getting in your car, maybe your car pulling up to the house. And I mean, yes, you'd have to get out, set your phone on the curb and pull up in front of it, but like it would add that visual interest and might take you a minute, right? Another one is come along for a day of selling city name with me and my on-brand accessories. So like, and my Diet Coke and my Kindle and my whatever. And then you're going to show that accessory in several shots to make it interesting, to make it repetitive in a good way, like in a strategic way. And I think that's a cool way to bring those pieces in that are going to kind of just stand out a little bit more. Like not that you need to like have Diet Coke in there, but like it's going to make it just that little splash different. That's going to make it like, wait, what is she doing? Or like, what is she talking about?
Yeah. When you are hyper aware of your like on brand elements because you have like taken the time to curate a personal brand, it makes it a lot easier and it makes your content so much more recognizable. So when you're driving around in the SUV that you're always shooting content from, or when you have your baby carrier with you, or when you have your McDonald's Diet Coke or whatever, like it just adds a little bit of brand recognition and it builds trust. Like that way, when someone does meet you at a house, of course you have your Diet Coke, or of course you have your baby. Like, it just makes sense for them. So I think that's super great. And all of this brings me to the next point, which is what to actually capture. And you've mentioned some really great ideas. We actually just came out with a brand new Modern Agent resource that we're super excited about. Do you want to tell them about that?
Yes, it is the ultimate modern agent B-roll guide, but it is actually so much more than a guide. We have a ton of B-roll shots. So if you aren't familiar with what B-roll is, it's basically like the scenes that aren't me talking straight onto a camera, but like if you're thinking about like when Kayla was talking about how to lose a guy in 10 days in the opening scenes, opening the door to the taxi, getting in, grabbing your coffee off the counter at the local Starbucks, like all the little scenes that make up like whatever it is that you're doing versus like the focal shot of like an interaction or a conversation or something like that. It's just the little moments that make up the whatever the scene is getting at, right?
Yeah, it tells the story of like what's happening, even without using words.
So the ultimate modern agent B-roll is, I was pulling up my notes, B-roll ideas for every category. So we have your office, listings, lifestyle, local, and more than that. So like list of ideas for all of those things. And then we have specific examples with links. We have photo inspo and tips to maximize your efforts. So it's all very easy to like binge through. You're going to want to charge your phone while you are going to download this because you're going to be ready to hit record when you're done. And then we also share what to actually do with the B-roll. So like it's really like an all-encompassing resource that's going to make your content so good.
Yeah. And just for saying, so a lot of the ideas we've mentioned as far as like other ways to say day in the life and things like that, those are also included in there. So if you didn't get a chance to write those down, just grab the guide. It's super helpful. And yeah, like I said, like I kind of look at it as like, it's kind of like having your own content director with you when you are going to like create content because someone's telling you exactly what to do. So I think it'll be super helpful for people.
Okay. So all you have to do is go to modernagentsocialclub.com/B-roll, B-R-O-L-L, and you can download it right there.
Do you want to talk about how to like elevate the reel? Because I think what happens sometimes is we shoot really great content and we piece it all together. And then when we go to watch a reel, it's like, first I got up this morning and I poured myself a cup of coffee. And then I did, and it's not interesting. So
however, as you're saying that, you remind me of that girl who does the reels.
Oh no.
Where she's like talks in that really like low, quiet voice. Like, this is the room where you're going to spend hours scrolling TikTok.
Realtor Caitlin. Yeah. Did I tell you that I reached out to her? I have not heard back. I'm going to get her on this podcast because she's a genius. I'm sure everyone knows who you're talking about. The girl that's like very like full of dry, sarcastic humor.
Yes.
Love her
so
and love
funny.
her take. So if you're listening, Realtor Caitlin, we're going to get you on a show.
Yes. We need you to come tell us all the things.
Yes. But see, the difference is that's humorous. What I just did was like, I don't know. I guess I just do this. Yeah, exactly.
Monotone. We don't want to be monotone. Okay. So maybe let's go through some B-roll examples and then we'll like talk about the elevating of them. So like, what are some clips you would take? Just like, let's talk about like your own day in the life. What would you do in this like document way where we're doing it anyways? Just open your camera, take a quick picture. One thing that I would give as like a quick side tip to this is maybe the night before you go to bed, you just kind of think in your brain through like what you maybe want to capture and kind of like do a 20-minute tidy up of your house. Like make sure your counter's cleared off, make sure there's not like crumbs all over it for like videoing. Maybe you wear really cute pajamas. Maybe you have your robe that you're going to put on in the morning. Maybe you, I don't know, like you just don't have a pile of laundry, or maybe you do. Like, I don't care. But like, what is your kind of like prep for the night before? Because it will make the actual videoing of this so much easier. And it can just be like a couple clips. Okay, like tell us what your few clips would be if you were doing day in the life tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would aim to shoot more than what I probably would end up using. That way you have more than enough to choose from and you're not at the end going like, oh, this is only like 20 seconds long or whatever. Like try to shoot more than what you need and then you can just pull your favorites. But if it were me and I'm thinking like, okay, if I would create a day in the real, honestly, okay, like I think a lot of people would be interested in what it's like getting 4 kids ready for school. However, my kids would not be interested in having a camera in their face in the morning. So I probably would maybe get up a little bit early and at least show myself like packing their lunches or something before they wake up. But just to like respect their own privacy and bless the mood of our household, I probably wouldn't actually record them. Yep. Or like my husband takes them to school. So like as they're leaving the driveway, like bye kids, you know?
Yeah.
And then I usually would like tidy up the kitchen a little bit. If it's a good morning, I've got a little bit of time to like read a book, or if it's nice out, take the dog on a quick walk. But then it's like showering and stuff. Now what's funny is some people are like really very open with like turning on the shower and getting under, like no one needs to see me getting undressed on camera, like not doing anything like that, but at least showing like, okay, now I'm dressed after my shower, maybe my hair is still wet, but like putting on skincare. And again, I don't think that someone has to show these things, but I like talking about skincare. Like I've been a hairstylist for a good chunk of my life. Like I like showing those things about my life or whatever. So for me, that would make sense. But then, yeah, as far as the rest of the day goes, I mean, just lighting the candle in my office and playing some music or what podcast I'm listening to or whatever. What about you?
I think the whole like videoing the 4 kids getting ready for school would be super entertaining, but I totally agree with you that that's probably not the right move. So my day, my goal is to get up before Henry, and it doesn't happen that often. He keeps getting up earlier and earlier, but I feel like my like first part of the day, it's so funny. He wakes me up and my Kindle is always next to my bed and my Stanley and my phone. And he hands me each thing. Like, come on, let's go. Like, get out of the bed.
I love him so much.
So funny. So then we get up, we come out in the living room. We usually play for a little bit. Like, I try to have these, like, very slow mornings, especially if he's getting up at 6. We have plenty of time to just, like, play for 15, 20 minutes. And then we do breakfast, and then we get him dressed. And so, like, my morning routine is very revolved around Henry until he goes to my mom's. And this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So these are my, like, big work days that the morning is like that. On Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's the whole morning. But so we'll get him ready, and then like once he leaves, if I'm not already showered and ready, then I'll go and do that. But I hate when I do that because then it's like already 9 o'clock when I'm starting to work, which is just way too late. So then I will make myself breakfast. I do all my supplements, my green juice. I then make my coffee after I eat something for breakfast. And then I come in my office and work, or sometimes I'll put my laptop on the kitchen island and work from there and light a candle. And sometimes I'll listen to a podcast. Sometimes I'll go on the treadmill. I don't really have like a set routine, clearly. So minus the getting up with Henry part, like everything else is kind of just like, let's see where the day takes me.
And I feel like we're probably similar too. I think having creative brains, I get really bored doing the same thing all the time. So even if I have like a routine that seems to work well for me, I still will mix it up because I'm like, I don't want to do that today. Like even like working out, like ideally, yeah, it'd be nice to get up and go to the gym like first thing in the morning. And I do sometimes, but other times I'm like, you know what? I'd rather wait until like 1 o'clock, quick go there and then pick up the kids from school. and go from there. So I think if you're listening and you're like, I don't even have a morning routine, like document that. Like that's still interesting.
Like I picture my morning routine video, or my morning routine, my day in the life, like me wearing eye patches in like one of my Mallory Urban pajama sets, playing on Henry's playroom floor with him, drinking my coffee or my green juice, whatever I am with first. And then like, you know, sometimes I'll take him to my mom's just so I can kind of get out of the house, turn on a podcast. I love going for a drive in the morning, especially if it's like a sunny day. Like it just gets my brain going. And I feel like because I work from home all the time, I need sometimes to like force myself out of the house. I used to do this, but like when I was pregnant and before I had Henry, I would drive to the Starbucks that was 20 minutes away because they had a drive-through. Our Starbucks has a drive-through now too. But I would just purposely do that to like go for a drive, listen to a podcast, get my brain going. Like I just wanted to like feel like I was driving to work, even though I didn't need to. I would come home with a million ideas, right? Like all my ideas come to me in the car, in the shower. Like whenever I can't write anything down is when they're just pouring in. So
then we take all those clips and then ideally, like I'm thinking most people know, like add some interesting audio and divide up the clips too. So one way you could do it is you can take like 1 minute long video of you doing something and then like piece it up within Instagram or CapCut or whatever you decide to use to keep the story moving along so that it's not just one drawn out scene. But add a little bit of audio, add something that feels on brand to you. Sometimes the audio is going to be like someone talking and it kind of just like shares like an inspirational quote or something. But other times that audio will just be like a song or something like that you like. And that's where you get the chance to add a voiceover. So as far as the voiceover goes, I am just like such a huge fan of when people use their voiceover to tell some kind of story. So here's the thing, like your actual day in the life reel, all the video clips that you've taken, everything that you've pieced together, even down to the music that you've chosen to pair with it, all of that tells a story, like what it's like being an agent in your city who does, you know, these things or who has this kind of lifestyle. That's all super great. But you can take that next voiceover and add such a deeper layer to it. So like you can share anything from like something interesting happened with a client yesterday. And we've kind of talked before, like kind of start your story in the middle of the story so that it's more interesting. Like I think you used the example on last week's episode where you were like, and there I was, you know, surrounded by chickens and my client asked me this, my buyer asked me this. Starting it kind of in the middle of the story is a really great way to do that. But another thing that you can do instead of just sharing like a client story is sharing like maybe like a deeper reason why you love where you live or like what home means to you, why and how that like connects back to real estate. So like if it's just like a cozy morning at home that you're like documenting like working from the office today or working from my home office today, doing these things, you can share like one of the reasons that we bought this house to begin with was because my office had the best view, and like just share what it means to you to be able to work from home and hear your kids laughing in the room next door or whatever.
I like hearing like the details. So like it's kind of like a listing, right? You have a listing and you go deeper than just it's 3 bedrooms and 2 baths and this many square feet. You're kind of explaining the lifestyle of the listing. So like for your day in the life video, you can kind of layer it with like more of the detail that you can't really just see from watching the video. Like maybe it is that you use a Hatch alarm clock and like you talk about how like I have to use this. I sleep with my phone out of the room because it makes me wake up better, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe you have like a yoga mat that you really like that you invested in and it's like your favorite, like a must have. Or it's one of the pieces of your skincare routine that you just can't live without that. Okay, you know how everyone talks about their favorite skincare things? Well, this is like seriously the holy grail. I cannot be ready without this one thing. Like you're giving this like, I almost think of honestly, Lauren Bostic from Skinny Confidential, when she does her ads, they're like so good because she like literally just dives in and gives you all the details of how she uses the product and makes it sound like I cannot live without this product. Like that's kind of your day in the life and how you could be explaining the things, because you can't see that like, I don't know, your Nespresso machine makes your coffee so frothy that it makes it so much, like I don't even want to go out for coffee because it's so good. And like, I don't even add, you know, like you're telling these little teeny details throughout that make it come to life more so than even just like the video. Like you're hearing your perspective on it, your take on it. And sometimes that can relate back to like the stories you're saying, like, you know, this is why I love living here, or this is why I always have these sacred mornings, or here's why this is part of my morning menu. We just saw a reel that had like a morning menu, and I love that. So I think kind of trying to just speak your video even more into like the unseen details is a really fun way to do it. And you can still kind of like walk them through your plans for the day. Like maybe even in the morning, you're kind of alluding to something coming later. Like, you know, you have a closing. So you're like, well, I'm going to get dressed in this color, or I'm wearing this blah, 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 because it's closing day. And like, I think of Christina Malo Dunn. She's been like a member of Mask since day one, but she does like a closing day dance, and she'll do it in her Instagram stories whenever she has a closing day, just like a little like nothing. She's like in her car. But she does it every closing day. So like that could be part of that. And you could kind of like, now that you say you have a closing coming, the closing dance is coming, right? And you could even take the closing dance video from one that you did 17 closings ago. It doesn't really matter. Like just grab one and pop it in. But I think using a voiceover to enhance the video will really elevate it and make it very fun to watch and feel like that true story.
Yeah, just adding another layer. Like, so whether it's a story or whether it's like more details. Another thing that I think you can do, and there's a girl, her name is Lauren Stadler, I believe. I'll try to link it in the show notes, but she is a farm wife, and she'll just talk about her life as like a homeschooling mom where she's baking bread and whatever while her husband farms. But she'll do series once in a while where she's like, okay, here's another episode where I'm making bread, but I'm going to tell you what's on my heart right now. And she'll just share a little story, like, or just a little bit of encouragement. And I just think like that's such a cool way to like build community, like especially when you are so clear on who your audience is and like the kind of community you want to build. Like for, I think a lot of our listeners, it's probably towards moms. So like if you can just say like, as you're piecing together, like, here's all the things I'm doing today, or like, you know, what I have on my agenda as a realtor, you can share the story of like, hey, like if you woke up this morning and you just felt like you have nothing else in you, like I get it. I've had mornings like that too. Like, here's one thing that I'm going to do today for myself, and I want to encourage you to do the same thing. Like something so simple, and like, yes, that might not be real heavy on real estate, but that's going to get people to share that story with their friend in their community too, who's like, hey, you needed to hear this. And that's going to like build that community of women that you want around you, that you want commenting on your things and engaging with your things. So sometimes I think, again, we have to like find that balance, right? You don't want to have all content that's just like that, because again, people are going to be like, is she even selling houses anymore? But to drip those in, to be intentional, to kind of pencil out, even if you plan like 2 weeks at a time, but over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to share one reel like this. It's a little bit more on the nose with real estate. I'm going to share another one that's a little bit more behind the scenes of my life, and maybe one that's just like encouraging and like more shareable. I feel like that would be like such a good balance, and that would like build your community and build your brand all at the same time.
I really love that idea because it really hones in on who your ideal client is too.
Yeah.
Because that story and that way of talking will connect with them. And it just kind of takes people deeper on like what your values are, what's important to you. And that's what makes people want to follow you and want to come back for more, and want to, like, we think about, there's so many real estate agents on Instagram. There's so many everything, right? Mm-hmm. Insert the niche. And it's like, how do you stand out? And it really is about going deeper with your content and making it about more than the house, more than even the agent.
So you can really like showcase the lifestyle of a listing by creating your own day in the life reel. So like my thought would be on like photo day, kick your seller out of the house and get there maybe early or stay later after the photographer is done. But then like shoot content as if you live there, and like bring on brand props that like support the lifestyle of that home, and like showcase your listing that way. I feel like I would be like so hooked. And if I was a seller, I'd be like, oh my gosh, you did all of that here? Like, thanks for taking the time to do that, you know?
And it could even just be like one aspect of the listing, like focus on like what is the main point. Like if it has like an amazing kitchen, have that kind of be the focal point. Because like, just like a day in the life video, you're not sharing every single piece of the day. Like you're probably going to hone in on like either a couple main points, or you're going to kind of more focus on the morning versus the evening. Like you can kind of, you can mix it up. But like with a listing, you don't have to show everything in the listing, but maybe you're like hosting Cinco de Mayo, Mother's Day, in my new listing on Elm Street, and you maybe just bring a few simple props to do that, like some cupcakes, a little cute cake stand, you bring some champagne and champagne glasses and some flowers, and you arrange them. And you have those cute little clips, and maybe like you show turning the water on in the sink, you show like opening the blinds in the kitchen, you show opening the fridge, like all these little moments that contribute to like hosting in that kitchen. And then you can have a call to action on that post, comment Elm Street for details on this listing. I mean, like now your reel is going out to whoever, all the people in your community, just like I saw that girls today, and you are getting a call to action to get people to basically get on your email list so you can now nurture them, people who are interested in your listing. So like if you want to really leverage the strategic side of social media, like doing things like that that's going to move the needle like big time. More so than, this is why like, and I feel like agents could like probably in the past have hated me for this, like never post a just listed template ever again, never post a just sold post ever again. And now I think people are really finally getting it. Just like,
thank God.
I think of like, you have to keep talking about it forever and ever and ever and ever before people are like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Like, because it's only hurting you to post a just listed template. It's not helping anyone else on Instagram. No one's there to buy a house. And most people seeing that aren't even local or whatever. So like, how can we make this content very intentional and the kind that someone wants to come back and see more of? Like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till their next listing because she's going to do this again. And I think, remembering too, you don't need a videographer for this. You don't need, I love in our Facebook group the other day, someone said, tell me all your favorite like accessories for shooting video and content, which I love the question. And I was like, my iPhone. Like, that's it.
Tripod.
And I have a tripod sometimes. I think I get it out maybe once a month.
I wrote down this quote from James Clear. And let me just say, every time I open up one of his emails and see something that completely aligns with Modern Agent, I like give myself a big pat on the back because I'm like, okay, if James Clear approves of this, then we're doing okay. But he put a quote that said, your best performances will come when you are working in a way that is a full expression of you. The work becomes a natural display of your personality. This is when you not only get better results, but you also love the activity because in doing the craft, you feel alive. So that's like the whole heart behind all of this too. Like, bottom line is everyone's day in the lifestyle reels are going to look different. Some are going to look a little bit more elevated. Some are going to look a little bit more hot mess. Both of those are going to attract your ideal client. And you know what? You might start recording things and then think to yourself like, this looks kind of boring, or I'm just not really like loving the feel of this. Like, then maybe that's your sign to like add a pop of color, or like to revisit like your brand menu and think like, what other elements can I add? Like what's like one simple little thing that I can do just to add a little bit more visual interest to this. That's like romanticizing your life. That's not being fake. That's not like staging every aspect of your brand. That's like just being more attuned with who you are and like what actually lights you up. Because when you feel lit up with your own content, when you feel like this is awesome, or I love how this turned out, your audience is going to feel the same way.
I have proof in the day in the life concept too. I did a series like 12 days of Modern Agent Christmas, and one of the days, it was like 12 prompts of things to do on social media. And one of the days was to do a day in the life video. And that video had like a crazy amount of watch time. My day in the life video is still to this day, I think, one of the highest watch time reels I've ever done. And I did a day in the life to show agents to do a day in the life. And this was a couple years ago. So this was even, now you see it 100 times more now than you did back then, but I've been talking about day in the life since 2018 when I launched this membership. Like, it's been like the cornerstone really to bring yourself into your content in a really simple, entertaining way. But I think what you're saying, Kayla, with the brand menu, it's going to make your day in the life content more fun to do if you are naturally gravitating and including the things that you do like to do. And it can be walking the dogs. It can be going for a walk with your kids, or going to the park, or it could be a tiny clip. Because my biggest tip with day in the life content is cut out the dead space. Like, don't let a clip go for too long, or it gets really boring really quick. But I think like when you can just show that quick clip, it's just, it breaks it up. It makes it more fun to see. Like Kayla, I like the color thing. I think using bright colors is a big thing, but I just have fun with it. Like, that's the most important thing. If you're not having fun with it, it's not going to come across as like fun to watch probably. Like I have so much fun when I do document those little things. So I'm excited for our challenge. So basically when they're watching or listening, watching, whatever, this podcast, we will have our day in the life linked for you to watch. So
there you go. I love
watch
that.
and comment on ours and
Yes,
here's a goal. Comment on our day in the life posts that are linked in the show notes and think of something you can relate to comment. Like don't just comment, love this, like comment something conversational. Ask a question, comment something that you agree with or that you also do or that you want to try. Like try to get yourself to engage in that way because it's going to help you kind of think through doing your own what is going to stick out to cause people to engage, just like how you're kind of thinking through how to respond to ours.
Yep. I love that. I also have a list that I'll add to the show notes too of like just other inspiration from other creators where you can see like different ways to do day in the life that's not necessarily just day in the life. So I'll add those to the show notes as well.
So another way you can do this if you aren't quite ready to create a reel is you can do this as a carousel post. So take photos of your day. This is like a lot less editing heavy too if you're just kind of getting started with all of this or you just want to kind of test the waters, but take little clips of different parts of your day. So like don't be afraid to like take a picture of the book with your coffee or don't be afraid to take a picture of a feature in a house that you showed or just the front seat of your car and like kind of timestamp each photo of like 9:30, 11, whatever, like pieces throughout your day. And that's another like fun visual way to showcase that without having to like do the video editing portion. And I still think it's really valuable and kind of gets that same point across. It's almost like I would recommend trying both and seeing which one you like better and which one, like what is the engagement like on one versus the other.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So the homework is to do some sort of day in the life, whether it's a reel or a carousel. And because we're so excited to see this. Your audience will be excited to see this. Keep in mind, like if it's your very first time you've ever done something like this, they might not know exactly how to respond to it, but that's okay. Like what we said earlier, like repetition is key. So choose to like stick with it for a while. Even choose for like the next 2 months. I'm going to post one of these every other week or something just to get started and just watch like those conversations start to happen. Reply to the comments, like just be social throughout all of this. And I think you'll be happy with the results.
I think too, it's another really easy way to try to achieve that balance between personal and business because you're going to do both as a result and local. Like you can pop local into that day in the life. Like where are you grabbing takeout? Where do you order your pizza? What are you bringing to clients? Where do you love getting your coffee? Where do you take your kids for ice cream? Just pick one little thing to pop in there and you're getting that perfect content cocktail that I keep talking about as a result, and that's going to help you do all the things.
Very cool. Well, hey guys, thanks so much again for listening. Chelsea, this is a great conversation. And don't forget to grab your free B-roll resource too in the show notes.
I can't wait to see you guys next Tuesday. I'm so glad we got to hang out today. If you're as sad as I am that our time is up, I've got good news. There are a couple of different ways we can keep the conversation going.
First, follow us on Instagram at Modern Agent Marketing Girls and introduce yourself in the DMs. Also, we always have a free Modern Agent resource available, so check out today's show notes for the goods.
And finally, hang out with other go-to real estate girls like you and finally create a marketing plan that works when you join Modern Agent Social Club. All the details are in today's notes.
XOXO, the Marketing Girls.